My presentation title is Novel Inheritance Mechanism of Digital Content for Digital Gene Towards Sustainable Society. The problems of today's increasingly digital society are becoming more complex and difficult to find solutions. In order to archive a sustainable society, this difficult problem must be solved. The key concept for solving this problem is the Cyber Physical System, CPS for short. The seamless integration of cyberspace and real world will be important because of the increasing digitalization. CPS aims to solve social problems by collecting data from the real world, processing it, and using the results to enrich our lives in the real world. To implement CPS, a variety of advanced technologies are needed. Sensing technology to accurately measure real world, storage technology to storage large-scale data, large-scale data analysis and machine learning technology to analyze a wide variety of data at fast speed to find useful knowledge and information, and high-precision actuation technology to control the real world with useful knowledge and information obtained in cyberspace are required. Intercloud technology is also essential for large-scale storage and data processing. The research and development activities on the required technologies are actively underway. In order to measure and control real-world entities must be associated with cyberspace and their associations must be maintained. DI is used to associate real-world entities such as people, organizations, devices, and services to cyberspace. DI is a set of attributes for representing real-world entities in the cyberspace. DIs can exist permanently in cyberspace, but real-world entities have a lifetime. For example, smartphones have a lifetime of 3 to 5 years. Consumer electronics products may be used for more than 10 years. Some products, such as home solar panels, have a warranty period of 15 years or more. The lifetimes of the entities in the real world and the eyes are different. If the association between entities in the real world and the eyes in cyberspace cannot be maintained, it is not possible to collect entities' data from the real world into cyberspace or control real-world entities from cyberspace. We call this problem the persistent problem. Thus, the persistent problem is not only an important technical challenge in implementing CPS, but also one that must be integrated with social institutions. In order to solve the persistent problem, the concept of a digital gene was proposed, and the research has been conducted development to implement it. Digital gene is a mechanism for permanently managing the eyes, modeled after chain and temples. They are maintained permanently by repairs and renovations in the real world. Similarly, digital gene maintains an association between real-world entities and the eyes by permanently managing the eyes. It makes necessary changes to the deposited the eyes and provides a connection with real-world entities when necessary. Digital gene manages the DIs of the following real-world entities. Although the entities such as data and software exist in cyberspace, digital gene manages the DI of those entities and not the entities themselves. Let Mr. A takes a photo X. The relationship of ownership arises between the DI of A and the DI of X. Digital gene maintains such a relationship among DIs. People increasingly store digital content in cloud service, and this content may become inaccessible to everyone in case of a death. The loss of access to content due to the death of the owner is a significant social loss. On the other hand, many people don't want their heirs to view their content before they die. If your heirs cannot view the digital content you inherited, then it's not worth the inheritance. In addition, friends and kindred minds want to view the digital content the same way they did during their lifetime. To solve this complex problem, we propose a novel inheritance mechanism. Novel inheritance mechanism enables the safe inheritance of digital content. Digital gene manages the DI of ancestor, heir, and encrypted digital content. In the event of the ancestor's death, the ancestor's account will be closed. The digital content stored in the account is then inherited by the heirs. The value of owner attribute in the DI of the digital content managed by the digital gene is applied to the heirs. Friends learn about the heir by contacting the digital gene. Friends can view the digital content as they did during the ancestor's lifetime. If they have the heir's permission. Even if the ancestor encrypts the digital content, the heirs can still see the encrypted digital content after the inheritance by securely inheriting the encryption key. We use a secure secret scheme to realize the inheritance of encrypted digital content. The secure secret scheme is a method of information security when data are divided into n pieces called shares. The original data can be restored if k pieces less n pieces are collected and cannot be restored even if k minus each pieces are collected. The secure secret scheme can prevent data loss while maintaining the confidentiality of the data. Confidentiality and prevention of data loss are convenient features for inheritance. It fulfills the conflicting demands of not wanting to be able to see digital content before death and the heirs being able to see the content they have inherited. The ancestor designates digital content that he does not want others to see, inputs a cryptographic key, and encrypts the designated digital content with the cryptographic key. Next, the cryptographic key is divided into n shares using the secure secret scheme. If the number of heirs is m, then k is m plus 1 and n is k plus 1. In this slide, the number of heirs is 3, so k is 4 and n is 5. The divided shares are delivered to the heirs, ancestor, and cloud provider where the ancestor stores digital content. The person or organization to whom the share is distributed other than the ancestor and the heirs can be any person or organization that the ancestor trusts to be able to pass the share to the heirs in accordance with the correct procedure at the time of inheritance. The ancestor chooses the cloud provider as such a trustworthy organization. The heirs, ancestor, and cloud provider store the distributed shares. If the ancestor wants to change the cryptographic key, digital content is decrypted with the existing cryptographic key and then encrypted with the new key. At the point of this encryption, The secure secret scheme is used to divide the content into multiple shares and distribute it to the heirs, ancestor, and cloud provider again. It is not necessary to correct all the shares. If the ancestors don't want the digital content to be viewed after their death, the key used to be encrypt the digital content should not be targeted to the secure secret scheme. When the ancestor views encrypted digital content, he enters the cryptographic key, decrypt encrypted digital content, and view it. The ancestors don't need to change the procedure for viewing encrypted digital content. It is a method with few obstacles to use. When the ancestor dies, heirs inherit the encrypted digital content. The heir 3 submit a death certificate to the cloud provider to prove that the ancestor has died and receive the share 5 that was managed by the cloud provider. All the heirs bring their respective shares and add them together with share 5 received from the cloud provider. Thus, the number of shares becomes 4 and the cryptographic key is reconstructed using these 4 shares. Subsequently, the cryptographic key is used to decrypt the inherited digital content. Digital content is then made available to the heirs. Because the heir can obtain the encrypted digital content without the ancestor's encryption key or share, they can obtain the digital content left behind when the ancestor dies suddenly. We will evaluate the proposal mechanism from various perspectives. First, we consider the security of the inheritance of the cryptographic key. Consider the scenario when an heir has malicious intent and obtained the ancestor's share illegally. This scenario has a high probability of happening. However, even if this scenario were to occur, the cryptographic key cannot be reconstructed because heir cannot collect K shares. In other words, the heir would not be able to view the encrypted digital content. Heir may try to illegally obtain share from the cloud provider. In reality, however, this is unlikely to work. Even in the unlikely event that it does work, the heir will not be able to reconstruct the cryptographic key, since she cannot collect K shares. Even if all heirs collude to collect their own shares and try to reconstruct the encryption key when the ancestor is alive, they can only collect K-each shares. Your heirs cannot view your digital content without your permission before you die. Secondly, consider ease of use. Our mechanism provides fine-grained control of inheritance by changing the heirs to whom the share is distributed for each digital content. It is possible to designate an heir for each digital content. It is important to note that the cryptographic key must be changed each time the heir is changed. To change heirs, the digital content can be encrypted with the new cryptographic key, and the share of the new cryptographic key can be distributed to the new heirs. In this case, it is not necessary to collect the share of those excluded from the heirs. Less effort to manage the encryption key. The third is the application to digital end of life. In recent years, there has been an increase in the problems of how to handle the data and content of the deceased that remains on the internet after death. JDEAI, Japan Digital Ending Activity Institute said, in order to ensure that your heirs don't face problems with digital data after your death, you should be informed of passwords to open computers and smartphones, where the necessary data will be stored, and how the person wishes to process the data. JDEAI recommends writing 3 things down in a note that can be used by anyone. But this method is not safe. By our mechanism, you can safely inform these 3 things onto your heirs. The next is consistency with social institutions. Inheritance is possible only by the consensus of all heirs. A proposed mechanism archives this by distributing shares to all the heirs, and the cryptographic key cannot be recovered until all the heirs' shares are united. This makes it possible to inherit digital content that is highly consistent with real-world inheritance. Lastly, it is about the right to be forgotten. The right to be forgotten has been in the spotlight recently. Our mechanism can make it impossible for anyone to view inherited digital content. It can also make the existence of digital content unknown by removing the management information of the DIs of digital content managed by the digital gene. It is able to erase the existence of the digital content by removing the relationship among the DIs managed by the digital gene. However, the content written in the digital content of third parties cannot be changed. Whether this satisfies the right to be forgotten requirement needs to be examined. We propose novel inheritance mechanism of digital content. The proposed mechanism allows the heirs to inherit and use not only unsecured digital content, but also concealed digital content. The new storage location of the digital content inherited by the heirs will be available to anyone by updating the DI managed by digital gene. Therefore, non-heirs such as friends can view the digital content just as they did during their lifetime. The handling of the data and contents of the deceased that remain on the Internet after death has become a new social problem that causes problems at the time of inheritance. The proposed mechanism is a pioneering study that paves the way for the realization of inheritance in the digital age. It is difficult to verify that the person using the service is the person whose name appears on the death certificate. How to solve this identification problem is a challenge for the practical application of this proposal. Thank you so much for your kind attention.